There's a story inside every one of us. Can you hear it? Can you feel it? It's like in nature, deep within us, waiting to be discovered. And when discovered, needs to be told. The question is, how do you tell it? The way you tell your story will determine the response of those who listen to you. And to tell a great and compelling story that leaves a lasting impression, you need to have these 5 elements in place. First, you need to have a structure. Deciding to freestyle a story is a very wrong move because a good story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is what we call the setup. The middle is what we call the contrast or the conflict, and the end is the resolution or the key takeaways. Understand that for any good story, the opening should always be captivating and create curiosity in the listener. The middle is the point where you frame the situation, and the ending is what ties everything together because this is what people usually remember about the story. The next thing you need is to be authentic. Creative storytelling should not be fictional at all. If the audience can relate to your own stories, you'll be able to build trust and make a connection with them. So it's best if you use your personal experiences to become relatable to your audience because listeners perceive authenticity, and if you don't have it, they would understand and sense it, and this would ultimately make them reject your story and the teller. The next thing you need now is to use a conversational tone. Be able to speak as though it's a conversation and try to use familiar words to help them understand what you mean. If you do this, you will come across as friendly and you will put your audience at ease. Any story you're trying to tell should be kept simple. You should speak to your audience as though you were talking to a friend or a family. And the key here is to be simple and conversational. The next, which is one of the best, is to be very visual in your communication. It's been said and proven that the average human has a very short attention span, so for any great story, the visual part has to be broken down into small, digestible and memorable chunks of information. What this means is that you need to give your stories and your content a new life with relevant images or videos that support the narrative of your story. In summary, do not tell your audience something if you can't make them see it. And the last one, which happens to be the foundation of everything, is to know your audience. Knowing your audience pain points and values will help you tell a great and compelling story. This helps you determine the topic of interest of your target audience and what other people want to actually listen to and hear. So, it's your assignment now to find out if there is any shared interest or experiences that you can highlight with your story. Understanding who you are telling your story to is like the most important thing for any great story, and the way you tell it to your audience is by finding out what your audience wants to hear. So the advice here is to find a common ground because it will help you create empathy, and if your audience can relate to the story you're telling them, they will empathize with you and begin to care about the story you're telling. By understanding these 5 essential elements of storytelling, this will help you never to underestimate the power of storytelling. And ultimately, you want your listeners to walk away with an emotional connection. This is what makes your story great and ultimately interesting to listen to. And I say this again, that the way you tell your story will determine the response of those who listen to you.